So now I would like to introduce this afternoon's Fireside Chat, Transatlantic Digital Cooperation and Challenges for the period of 2024 through 2029. Excuse me? Excuse me. Thank you. The Fireside Chat is being moderated by Director General of Digital Europe, Cecilia Bonefeld-Dahl, and of course, our guest is Valdis Dombrovskis, Executive Vice President at the European Commission. Please join me in warmly welcoming the two of them.
Thank you so much. And as I say, Executive Vice President, please have a seat. It's becoming a habit sitting on stage with you, and it's a nice habit. Let's keep it going. So you have been the Executive Vice President of the Commission that has been responsible for, I would say, most of the great things that we have done on with our biggest partner in the US, the launch of the TTC, the Trade and Technology Council with the US, EU-US. And before that, of course, you were the Prime Minister of Latvia, and you've also been an MEP. So I think we can say that you have a very extensive insight and knowledge in EU and all the policies that have been implemented. So during those years, I think we can say we have done great progress. We have had the EU-US data privacy framework coming through. We have had EU-India, EU-Japan digital dialogues, of course, as I mentioned, the Trade and Technology Councils, and a renewed dialogue on export controls, secure supply chains, and right now the Transatlantic Initiative for Sustainable Trade, something that is very much linked to the green transition. So the latest thing is, of course, the economic security strategy, the strategy to promote, protect, and partner. And we would very much like to see a fourth P, which is public-private partnership, also being a part of that strategy. So with that, welcome here, and thank you so much for joining us for this Fireside Chat.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for this invitation to this Masters of Digital 2024 event. So, you already touched upon a broad range of topics. Obviously, green and digital transitions of the economy, those are the strategic priorities which we had set at the beginning of this Commission's mandate, and they really shape lots of our policies and the way our economy and society is functioning and is going to function. And obviously, while doing this, it's very important to be strongly engaged with our partners, and our transatlantic partnership with the United States is in terms of economy, in terms of trade and investment, actually the largest and most important partnership in the world. We are also strategic allies geopolitically, so it's very important that we are also working together to address the questions related to green and digital transitions, and that's where indeed the Trade and Technology Council, which we have set between EU and US, comes in. And indeed, it's proving very valuable platform for cooperation, for coordinating our approaches, also for discussing our differences, building trust, and finding the ways forward.
So the TTC is also like a little bit, it's an informal thing. It's not like an institution yet. So do you think that the TTC will now, survive the elections, both in the EU and in US? Is it like consolidated now enough to basically to keep the steam going?
We already had some discussions with our US counterparts on this, and certainly that's going to be a top of this discussion of the next TTC, so the 6th TTC meeting in spring here in Belgium. and there will be discussing. So what is a future of TTC? How do we move forward? And one of the topics which indeed comes up is all the time the question of institutionalization. Well, remains to be seen whether that is a path we are going to follow, because we think that the key for success and for continued work of the Trade and Technology Council is a political will on both sides. If there will be political will on both sides, we'll be able to move forward. If there will not be political will, institutional or not, it will prove difficult.
So on the 24th of January, the Economic Security Package came out. It's the first time we talk about critical technologies. Mm-hmm. Critical technologies, of course, meaning that they're essential for society to be resilient and that we need some kind of capabilities. And it has, right now, it mentions AI, advanced semiconductors, quantum, and biotechnology. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, we have a list we want to include. It's coming out very soon. But if we look at the company side, headquarters in Europe at least, we have very few companies that lead in these areas. So what would be the plan? What can EU actually what can they do to get more companies within those areas of resilience? So is there a plan for that?
Indeed. So maybe let me start with the economic security partnership and then coming to the second part of your question on developing of our industry, of course, to the extent those questions are linked. But on economic security partnership, I would highlight a couple of points. So first is that we need to be precise and targeted in our approach. So we need to identify what are the specific risks we want to address, what are the specific technologies we don't want to go into wrong hands, so to say, and then act in a precise way to address identified risks. Basically the point is that the work on economic security should not become a pretext for protectionism. EU is thriving on its economic openness. We are a global trading superpower. We are having a largest network of free trade agreements around the world, and that's a significant part of our economic strengths. Also in the EU, we always need to remember that in the next decade, some 85 to 90% of global growth will take place outside the EU. So we need to be connected to this external source of growth. So while it is true that there is a paradigm shift from efficiency and resilience, also in terms of value chains, supply chains, it will be important to find the right balance in this, otherwise it's going to have also substantial negative economic consequences. So there are estimates that if we were to allow, for example, global economic fragmentation to take place, if the trade would largely concentrate around certain geopolitical blocks, it would have an effect of taking some 5 to 7% of world GDP away. And that's, if we look at the 7%, it's combined GDP of Germany and France. So it's an effect like taking GDP of those two countries from the world map. So something we certainly should aim to avoid. So that's something I keep reiterating on the need to be targeted. And indeed, if we are now looking at the critical technologies, we have chosen 4 critical technologies for risk assessment, as you already mentioned, quantum, advanced semiconductors, artificial intelligence, and biotechnologies. It is possible that, in a sense, we will expand also in other areas for risk assessment, but also there, in a sense, we need to remain targeted. It cannot be that just like everything is strategic, because then, if everything is priority at the end of the day, nothing is a priority. So that's one. On the second part of the question, okay, how to advance those industries? I think by now we have a right regulatory framework in place with our CHIPS Act, with AI Act, with Digital Market Act, Digital Services Act, and so on. We have our Green Deal Industrial Plan, we have Net Zero Industry Act. It's clear that we are, in a sense, having much more active industrial policies than we used to have some years ago. And we are also looking at concrete targets which we would aim in different areas, including in chips production, for example, aiming to double the chips production and eventually produce like 20% of the world's semiconductors. And for all of this, I think we have necessary prerequisites. We have a good research and innovation system, also lots of support from the European level. We have thriving startups landscape. What is important and what we are seeing is when we are looking at startups, actually we are faring quite well. When we are looking at how many of those startups are active in Europe some 5 years later, that's where we are falling behind. So in a sense, we need to create the right conditions for the companies to scale up in Europe and thrive in Europe, and not to go scaling up somewhere in US or Asia or elsewhere. So that's one of the challenges we need to address. And another, we need to ensure a level playing field. So that's why also in our trade policy, we are paying much more attention on trade enforcement, on ensuring the level playing field, and also having our toolbox in case others are not playing by the rules, because that's another important element to allow for European industry actually to develop.
So in the strategy, we heard about the 3 Ps. We call it 4 Ps. But there is a lot of protect there: investment screening, export controls, etc. And of course, I mean, we would like to see much more promote and partner. What would be the 2 things, what can we do better in promote and what can we do better in partner?
On promote, we already discussed some of the aspects. If you look at this promote pillar, it also obviously pays lots of attention on development of our single market, because that's our largest economic asset. But still, in many cases, it's not really functioning as a single market, including in a digital area. It sometimes feels like 27 different markets. And that's critical. We need single market for companies to be able to scale up. So that's then obviously we have our temporary state aid framework providing more flexibilities actually to support companies, including in green transition. We are looking also in the areas of clean tech, of green energy, speeding up permitting procedures, reducing administrative burden, so that we can actually launch and develop projects faster. So just to highlight some of the elements on this promote part. On partner, that's obviously another important element, that we need to partner with reliable partners around the world. First and foremost, obviously, with our like-minded partners. And that's why also economic security issues feature very prominently on agenda of EU-US Trade and Technology Council. But we also discuss those topics broader, for example, in trilateral EU, US, Japan format, within G7, other formats. So it's clear that this partnering is an important element. And also, for example, if we look at access to raw materials, which is important in a context of green and digital economies, that we have all necessary inputs. Also there, we need to build resilient and diversified supply chains, and again, it means partnering around the world. Because if you look at the raw materials, in our raw materials strategy, which has ambitious goals and I would say somewhat optimistic assumptions, still the estimate is that by 2030 we'll be able to source 10% of the minerals we need domestically within the EU. It means 90% in any case will have to come from outside the EU, and therefore this partnering aspect also in this context is very important.
Yeah, well, and just to sum up this theme, I mean, Digital Europe will be coming out with a study on this economic security strategy this summer before our summer summit. And what we're going to try to do is like map the companies that we have. Where are we actually strong? Where do we have strength positions? And where are the big areas of partnership? Where are the big areas of promote, protect, and of public-private partnership for that matter? So hopefully we can work much more together in that. So let me jump to the subject of the digital euro. We met in Latvia, beautiful surroundings, and it was a great event speaking about the anniversary of the euro in Latvia, but also the digital euro. So what do you see, as the big benefits for Europe on the digital euro? What is it that it gives consumers and citizens that they don't have today?
Yeah, before I move to the digital euro, sorry, I got distracted by this screen. I don't know how we don't see it, no, but we see it here in front of us, which says TDC, whereas actually it should say TTC.
I think TDC is actually the Danish telecoms operator, but maybe
it's
called
TTC.
TTC. But okay, wherever you are, we have a spelling mistake.
Yeah, but okay, to move to this question to digital euro, indeed, that's now the major project. Well, first of all, it's clear that economy is turning more digital, and money, euro, also needs to move together with this digital developments. And another point, which is that central bank money is currently it is cash. What you have in banks, that's in a sense private money. What is the central bank money is cash, and with use of cash declining and people using more and more digital payments, the question also becomes, so what is the role of central bank money in our overall system? And that's another reason of actually having the digital euro, also bringing euro in the digital age. I always emphasize this, that it's to complement and not to substitute cash. And to reinforce this point, actually, when we moved forward with our legislative proposal on digital euro, in parallel we put forward a legislative proposal on legal tender status for euro cash as well. So then talking about the key features of the digital euro, well, obviously it has to provide euro-wide payment solutions, instant payment solutions, convenient and quick to use for consumers. It has to provide a high level of data protection and privacy protection. In any case, the idea is to distribute digital euros through financial intermediaries. Would it be banks or other financial intermediaries? So the idea is not that that would be done directly by central banks with millions or hundreds of millions of citizens. So those are probably some of the key features. And also important elements that we are going to limit the store of value function of the digital euro. because we do not want to arrive at the situation of disintermediation of the financial system, so that banks still have deposit base and can provide credit to economy. So it's obviously important function to preserve. So therefore, it's going to be a convenient payment and transaction solution, but with limited store of value possibilities.
So if we look, just staying on the digital euro for a second, so if you look at the Nordics and the Baltics, for example, we are almost like cashless, right? We pay with a mobile phone, card at worst, I would say. Cash is very limited. So if in simple terms we are supposed to tell people in the Baltics and the Nordics, what do they get more with the euro? What would that be? The digital euro, sorry. What would that be? What would be the big argument for them to, or the wins for them? Is it more structural?
Well, for a consumer, certainly, as I said, it's basically aiming at euro-wide digital payments with both online and offline functionality. So with online functionality, obviously, there are already many private solutions, so probably it can improve some. There will be some improvements, but okay, many of those features are in a sense already available. In terms of this offline functionality, that's often not the case, but in a sense that would help to replicate small cash transactions right now, where people are just giving some banknotes and coins to each other to settle whatever bills or whatever, that can be done also then with the help of digital euro offline, so without online functionality. Obviously the digital euro is a safest asset possible, and as I was mentioning, also the high level of privacy which is going to be provided.
Super. I mean, and maybe we can even get the Danes to actually adopt the euro. Who knows, right? Anyway, so listen, you are also, I mean, you've been quite a key figure, as we said, on the TTC, on many of the supply chain initiatives and everything. So we know you super well from this commission. Now there's election, and you are running again. And you're running either, you came out saying I'm running either to stay in the commission or to stay as an MEP. So, you know, looking back, what are you most proud about? What would be like, you know, the things you go back to your family and say, like, I'm really proud that we did this? And what is the next big thing for the next term?
Okay, so first maybe looking back to this Commission's term, okay, it's still more than half a year to go, but certainly many things have happened already. So first, when the Commission came in office, we outlined our flagship policies on green and digital transformation of the economy, and set out advancing them, but pretty soon, so to say, the real life intervened, first with COVID-19 pandemics, then with Russia's aggression against Ukraine, and we need to find also European response to those events. So if we discuss COVID-19 pandemics, the area in my competence which I had been dealing was the work on recovery and resilience facility. So within the framework of European Economic Recovery Plan Next Generation EU, which really was providing support for member states in a context of a pandemic to deal with social and economic consequences of the pandemic, and also a more forward-looking aim of strengthening the resilience of economy and promoting green and digital transition. Actually, just today, before coming to this event, we presented the midterm evaluation of the Recovery and Resilience Facility, and we see that it's actually delivering on the aims which we had put forward. It's a major program program exceeding 800 billion euros if we talk about Next Generation EU and really making difference on the ground. And for the first time we're actually combining investments with structural reforms, so providing also incentives for member states actually to do growth-enhancing structural reforms, and we are seeing that it is actually making a difference in how those reforms are being implemented. So that's one important element. In a context of Russia's aggression against Ukraine, I have been working with the Ukraine support programs since 2014. So we had to find the financial support for Ukraine, both in immediate aftermath of the invasion and then also last year when we had 18 billion macro-financial assistance plus program, and now when we have agreement on 50 billion euros Ukraine facility, which is there for years 2024-2027. So I think this is another important achievement that as a Europe we got together. Were able to put pressure on aggressor Russia with already 13 sanctions packages, and also to provide all necessary support to Ukraine. Obviously, we need to stay the course there and not to allow some kind of a war fatigue or Ukraine fatigue to set in. So looking forward, it's one thing is clear that the questions on security and defense will feature and already are featuring much more prominently in our agenda than some years ago. And that's a new area for the EU, because EU was conceived as a peace project, not to allow war on the European continent. Unfortunately, war on the European continent is again a reality. So, so we really need to work very seriously to strengthen our security and defense capabilities, including development of a military industry. So this is, I think, one important priority which we already are working on, and also for the next Commission's mandate. And another, I would highlight competitiveness. That's basis for our prosperity. To sustain high-level prosperity, we need to sustain our competitiveness, and there we are facing a number of structural challenges, like relatively weak productivity growth, which is falling behind our major competitors like US and China, so other major economies. Population aging, relatively high energy prices, obviously administrative burden is a topic which we need to address, and there already the Commission has come forward with a proposal of reduction of administrative burden by 25% without undercutting underlying policy objectives. Green and digital transformations come with their own challenges in a context of competitiveness. So that's, I would say, another very important area I would highlight.
So really, the RRF and the whole handling of the COVID crisis you mentioned, and Ukraine, which is not over yet. So totally from our view also, let's stay on that, because if they succeed, it's going to get much worse. In the future, you say a war economy, a potential war economy, and looking at defense, how we can defend ourselves, and of course the competitiveness to maintain our prosperity. So if you were to meet, unless it's, you already, of course, know Ursula von der Leyen, and she also said, I am running to stay. But let's say, no matter who the new president is, and you had like a minute in the elevator with that person, and you're both re-elected, and you should give like one or two advices to the new president, with all the knowledge that you have today and all the experience you had, what would that be?
Well, that's a bit of a tricky question. I think it's a good chance that the new president will be our current president, which has been steering through all of those crises which we had been facing, COVID pandemic, Russia's war in Ukraine, driving forward green and digital transformations. So I don't think there is much advice to give, basically just to stay the course.
To stay the course. Okay. Listen, thank you for your always very constructive contribution, and thank you for all the work that you have done on Ukraine, on the RRF, on the TTC, and our partnering also with our most important allies. Thank you so much for coming to the Masters of Digital and for your contributions here today. Thank you.
Thank you.